Welcome to today's webinar with YCharts and Schwab's iRebal. Today we'll be covering leveraging the integration of those two systems ultimately for enhanced portfolio management. My name is Christian Hushin. I am a customer success manager here at YCharts, covering our Northeast region. We have a very special guest here today. We have Chris Candela, Senior Integration Consultant from Schwab, to help us discuss this relationship between YCharts and iRebal. Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Southern California. So sorry to brag about that weather, but hopefully everyone else has good weather where they're at across the country.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks for joining us here. Few housekeeping items before we get going. First and foremost, if you have any questions during this webinar, we would love to hear from you. So everybody should have a Q&A icon at the bottom of their Zoom screen there. We'll try to get to as many of those as we can throughout the webinar, but please note that there is also a Q&A session at the end of this call where we'll be able to kind of tackle a lot of those, hopefully all of them, but we'll do the best we can. Also, please keep in mind that the content of this webinar is meant for educational purposes only and is not intended to be used as an investment advice, nor is YCharts acting as an advising party regarding client funds in any way. I would also like to point out that the recording of this webinar will be emailed to everybody. Everybody that's signed up and registered for this will receive a replay of this webinar. They'll receive that via email and will also live within our YouTube channel that you'll be able to reference then as well. Here's our agenda today. We're going to go over a wide variety of kind of product and functionality here between the two systems of YCharts and Schwab's iRebal. We're going to cover the convenience of centralized hub for research and client communications, maximizing efficiency, and leveraging both platforms to their fullest potential. So a little bit about YCharts for those who do not know. YCharts is a investment research and client communications system. Over there on the right, you'll see a really great diagram of really a bevy of functionality that YCharts provides. So going through this, starting at the beginning, what's great about all of this is all of these will actually be able to kind of play in with the integration that we hold with Schwab and iRebal. First being dashboards and alerts, being able to use YCharts to monitor the information that you are interested in on a daily basis, being able to kind of cover economic information, markets information, and even information that's relevant to your models, your firm-wide models that you might be managing on iRebal. So able to monitor those with our dashboard, as well as setting up alerts on those securities and economic information is something that YCharts is going to be able to do really well for you. And also moving along, on the research analysis side is another thing that YCharts does really well, using screeners and comp tables for things like idea generation and analysis, as well as due diligence on your holdings of your portfolios, on the portfolios as an aggregate. So we'll definitely be able to provide a lot in that sense. And then, of course, portfolio construction, which is really kind of the name of the game here with the integration of Schwab and iRebal, being able to bring in your models as well as your client accounts from Schwab into YCharts really quickly and easily here, be able to really get a good kind of in-depth analysis on those portfolios with the integration of iRebal. With those portfolios comes a lot of really great tools and systems in regards to client communications, being able to print out a lot of that information that you see there on the portfolio into client deliverable reports, being able to talk them through certain aspects of portfolios, potentially even proposal types of reports, that sort of thing. And even creating more simple visuals relating to the model, relating to market information, indices, economic data, and the like. And really last thing there, what that all kind of can lead to is advisor-client alignment, being able to have these conversations and adequately tell stories about how your model's performing, what the risk it's like, allocations, how that's being impacted by certain economic events. All of that can really come to fruition through the use of YCharts with iRebal, Schwab, using our reports and all the portfolio features that we have to offer. And with that, again, the key benefits that are going to come through there are ideally going to be AUM growth and retention. Being able to, again, have those conversations to win business, to keep business is something that YCharts is commonly utilized for. Significant time savings on your report creation. If you have a long process currently, we'll be able to shorten that up for you. Time savings also along the lines of research, being able to get the data that you want to see quickly and easily. Which ideally, again, comes out to better outcomes and client satisfactions with your business and your conversations. All righty. Going to kick things over here to Chris. Chris, take it away. One question I had for you is if you could just give the group a little bit of an overview about, what you and your team do over there at Schwab and iRebal.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm part of Schwab's third-party integrations team, and we work with third-party vendors who want to integrate with Schwab Advisor Center. And the scope of that work includes helping them come up with an integration strategy, keeping them up to date on what integration Schwab has and what's on our roadmap, and really just being a thought partner in terms of how to best incorporate the integrations into a vendor's platform to give the most value to advisors. We actually have over 228 different platforms that we integrate with. And in addition to the category that YCharts falls into, we have a dozen other categories from CRMs to financial planning to portfolio reporting. So we have a very broad integration offering that includes APIs, application programming interfaces, single sign-on, and even documents via FTP connections. And that, not to mention, we have several hundred vendors who are just using our daily data files as well. iRebal is one of our newest integration offerings, and actually YCharts is the first vendor to go to general availability with that integration. So we're really excited for you guys to get the demo here from Christian and hear more about what that integration can do.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Chris. Very helpful. Going to move things along here into a little bit of a demonstration within the YCharts system. So I'm going to navigate to my YCharts home screen here. So in terms of really setting up the integration, the first thing that we are going to want to do to sync these two systems together within YCharts is navigate up to the support dropdown and to integrations over here on the left. This is where we'll be able to activate and sync these two systems again, like I said. These are the current integration partners that we offer, of course, focusing on Schwab Advisor Center and iRebal today. I already have mine activated, but this process really is pretty simple and should be pretty seamless. Once you do have a Schwab Advisor Center and iRebal login, it's basically just going to prompt you to log in to sync those two systems. So what you're going to want to do is go over to Manage over here on the far right and click Activate. What that's going to do is pop up some terms and conditions. Scroll to the bottom, click through that. It's going to ask for your Schwab login and password with a multi-factor, and then those systems should be synced up from there. So again, if you run into any issues, that's definitely something that we'll be able to help out with. Hopefully should be a relatively simple process about syncing those two systems together, which can now lead to a lot of the strengths and capabilities that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and if there are issues on the Schwab credentialing side, like a password's incorrect, or maybe you don't have the proper permissions to activate the integration, feel free to reach out to your Schwab service team for issues like that. So between the YCharts support and your dedicated Schwab service team, we'll get you in the right spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point, Chris. And along the lines of support on the YChart side of things, hopefully everybody's aware that you will have this chat feature down here on the bottom right that you'll be able to utilize for questions. Those are live teammates behind that, product experts that you'll be able to get a hold of during business hours. They'd be more than happy to hear from you. But alrighty, moving along here, once we get this Schwab Advisor Center and iRebal integration connected. We're going to navigate to the tools drop down and then go to portfolios here under manage. This is really where this integration is going to live, because really what we're looking to create at the end of the day are portfolios. Really any sort of portfolio within YCharts is going to live within this portfolios tool, of course. So whether it's managed models, prospect clients, current clients, really anything that's a basket of securities is going to live here within this portfolios tool. And in order to really kind of complete this integration of bringing in, models that are held at iRebal, what we're going to want to do is click import holdings up here in the top right. And then you should see this Schwab Advisor Center and iRebal symbol once that is connected. So now that I see this, I'm going to go ahead and click into this. We get this search functionality that pops up. I'm going to hit this drop down here because that's really going to highlight some of the key differences about what iRebal is and how that's different from Schwab Advisor Center's integration historically. So if you're not aware, of course, you actually can bring in existing client accounts into YCharts via that Schwab Advisor Center integration. Today, we're going to be a little bit more focused on iRebal because, as Chris mentioned, we're really the first firm to bring that into general availability. So again, this process is really going to be along the lines of bringing in the models that you have and hold at iRebal. So once you find the correct categorization, it's really just going to be a search functionality. I'm going to go ahead here, just use this search functionality to bring in, the models that I'm looking to hold. So I know that I have an ETF model. I'm just going to use that as a keyword search. And here's my balanced ETF model. I'm going to click on that. I want to bring in the account holdings as well, and click import. We're going to import this as a model portfolio. And as you can see here, what this is doing is bringing in the holdings of that model as well as the target weights of that model. So that's really the important part about what we're doing here. So once this comes in, we have this information set up. There's a few other kind of settings that you can adjust up in the top, up in the gray. Things such as name. We can rename this if we'd like, something to make it identifiable. Description. We can change the benchmark to something that might make more sense in relation to the portfolio based off asset allocation, for example. We can adjust the rebalance frequency. We can enter in our advisory fee if we'd like. And those are really kind of the main proponents there. Any other things that might come up will be a little bit more nuanced, but of course, we're always happy to help with those. So let us know. And that's really going to be the process. So now when I click save, it's going to take a second to calculate. I'm just going to go ahead and click into this. Awesome. So we're done calculating. So now what this means is we just successfully brought in our model that's held in iRebal into YCharts. So here's the look. If you're not familiar with this, this is really kind of what the output of our portfolios tool looks like. Really kind of similar to a lot of the funds, the formatting of what funds look like on the platform, kind of trying to keep things uniform for everybody. So of course, a bevy of information here for us right away. Lots of different data and analysis that we'll be able to take a look at. So I definitely will hit on that. One thing that I want to show everybody right away, not quite on the research and analysis side of things, but more on that client communication aspect. One thing that we can do really well here now that we have our managed model within YCharts, we can create a proposal report. If you have a prospect client coming in and you want to highlight what the key differences are of your model that you're proposing to them, maybe typically versus what the prospect client is currently holding, for example, that's something that can be done really quickly and easily here within YCharts. So to do that, we're just going to click on reports up in the top right. I'm going to generate a comparison report because this is really going to bring in kind of a portfolio A versus portfolio B format. So we're able to talk through specific key differences of, again, the model that you're proposing to them versus what that prospect client currently holds, or maybe what that current client currently holds. The comparison reports are going to do a really good job of laying those two out right next to each other, which allow you can point out key differences. So we'll have a variety of reports available to you. I'm going to go ahead and print off a comprehensive side-by-side report with a benchmark. This is the screen where we'll need to bring in that prospect client's portfolio. We're going to need to enter in that information in as a portfolio in some form. So I already have one pulled up here. We're going to bring in, prospect client current holdings just as an example. Enter in some information to hopefully make this look like a nice, clean looking deliverable. We'll name this prospect client. We can change this name if we'd like to. We can enter in, adjust this information here, but that's really about it. I'm going to go ahead and click generate. Question from Andrew while we're doing this is, will the integration bring in past holding as a dynamic model? Good question, Andrew. Not something that the system does at the moment. We will be able to have some workarounds specifically around our dynamic portfolio tool. We can kind of do some work to connect those. So definitely something that can be done with a touch more legwork. So not something that is automatically done via this Schwab integration, but ideally should be able to kind of get that result for you in some form. So that just printed off. I'm going to click my downloads here and pull that up. And now we have this portfolio here, or this report here, excuse me. So again, as I mentioned, this is going to do a really good job of kind of bringing in portfolio A versus portfolio B. And I also chose the report to bring in the benchmark. So it's going to bring that in as well. Don't have to do that. We'll have a lot of options in terms of reports to show exactly what you want to show. So this is really what this is going to look like. I'm not going to go through kind of every piece of information on this report here today. But just know that this is going to bring in all sorts of different information on the two portfolios in terms of returns, basic info, asset allocation, region exposure, expanded region exposure, market cap, all this good stuff that's going to allow you to bring these up in client conversations. So, for example, if we want to talk about how their allocations differ, this prospect client's really heavily in stock. If maybe that doesn't make sense from them for a suitability standpoint, we can propose to them how these portfolios differ. Again, going to serve really well as a proposal report so that we can talk through them. So if you do have a YCharts account, I'd highly recommend for you to print out some reports, get familiar with the type of information that they pull in, and see if that's something that could be useful for you and your business. And it's also worth knowing that when we look at this report, depending on any sort of kind of broker dealer affiliations or compliance reasons you might have, you can utilize this report builder tool to really highly customize what that report looks like. So this tool is really powerful in terms of customizing what these reports show. So when you go to the report builder and click create new, you can either start completely from scratch, but let's just say that I wanted to just make some small tweaks on the report that I just created. This will now bring this in as an editor, and I can sort through and adjust information that I see fit. I can delete certain modules. I can add in certain key stats that I want to see. Let's say I wanted to bring in, instead of beta, I wanted to bring in the weighted average PE ratio. Simple as that. Again, really, really able to customize what exactly you want this report to look like. You can even create new pages and enter in all this sorts of information. This is going to be a drag and drop functionality. Again, something I highly recommend to get familiar with if you have not already. Awesome. So that's something really quickly and easily you can do once you do bring in your managed model into YCharts from iRebal, being able to create those proposal types of reports, being able to highlight certain aspects of the model that you hold in iRebal into a nice, clean looking deliverable that's generated by YCharts. Alrighty. So that's going to be more along the lines of the client communication types of functionality that we're going to be able to provide once you do bring in the model into YCharts. Switching gears a little bit to more so some of the research and analysis that you can provide on YCharts. Once you have your model in here from iRebal. Really just an overall first glance here. I really highly recommend each and every one of these tabs that live in the top. This quote page is going to do a good job of really kind of summarizing a lot of the different aspects of the portfolio. But if you do want to get more granular, each and every one of these tabs is something that we believe to be strong information that, could be relevant to you and what you want to see in your model. So have again, a whole bevy of information here that you can sort through into performance, allocation. Again, similar to a lot of that information you saw in the report, but able to get a good raw look into it right now. Attribution, one thing that YCharts is going to do really well is going to allow you to identify potential underperformers within your portfolio. So there's a few different places where we can see how to find those. Attribution definitely being one of those tools. Attribution is going to be able to tell you what's been contributing or what's been detracting from the performance of your portfolio on a chosen time frame. So if we want to see year to date, what's bringing down our portfolio, maybe 1 year, if we're seeing commonly held funds, maybe that's a sign to us that, hey, this particular holding is dragging down our portfolio. Let's maybe look into replacing that, see if we have any options for that. So again, the attribution place is just one where we can see that. And then we have a variety of tools that are going to be able to help us find replacements as well. So I'll just skip to that. We do have one quick question here. Can you compare a portfolio against an individual equity? Absolutely. Our portfolios or our reports are going to allow you to bring in really any sort of security and portfolio that lives on YCharts. So you can push any data from a security from YCharts into the report. So let's say here, this BWX holding is something that's potentially holding our portfolio up a little bit. We want to do some more research, potentially find what, see if we could find any replacements. So I just clicked on that from the attribution tab. Got it pulled up in its separate section here. So we have a whole another level of analysis that we can do looking into this. But what I'm going to do now that we're clicked into this specific fund, I'm going to go to the quick flows option over here on the right. If you're not familiar with quick flows are going to be some preset places that will take you to in YCharts without you having to do much legwork. So they're really great for time saving and getting hopefully some relevant data right in front of you really quickly and easily. So once I have this fund pulled up, I'm going to go to this similar securities section. I'm gonna click Find Funds Ranked in Category. What this is going to do is this is going to take us to our fund screener and generate an entirely new list of funds that are within the criteria or within the category of the original fund we were looking at. So it's not going to mess up with your allocations too much. And then what it's also going to do is it's only going to bring in funds that are consistently within the top 50 percentile of their category over the past 1, 3, and 5 years. So you can really kind of see the logic up above here. We're bringing in funds that are within the global bond category. And then again, we're only going to bring in these top performers. So now we have a whole new list of funds that we could potentially look into replacing that holding. So looking at our list here, without diving into this too much, really kind of more for example purposes, we have this Destinations Global Fixed Income Fund right here in front of us that looks to be scoring really high consistently over the past 1, 3, and 5 years. So, skipping some steps here, let's say that we want to really implement this fund into our portfolio. We want to duplicate this. We want to replace that original fund that we were looking at, this BWX. We want to replace it with DGFZX here. What I'm actually going to do is go back to our portfolios tool. we have this balanced model that we saw here. I'm going to click on the three dots over here on the far right, and I'm going to duplicate this just so it's not, adjusting our original portfolio. We're going to be able to maybe compare the two. We don't want to get rid of them. So I duplicated it, and then I'm going to click Edit Items. And here where it says BWX, I'm actually going to replace that now with this DGFZX fund. So now we have that there. So we just went through the process of using the attribution tab within YCharts to identify underperforming securities within your portfolio. Route that underperformer into the quick flows over here on the right to create a screen to find some potential replacements. I then went back to the original portfolio and duplicated it and now swapped out those two funds so that we now have the new and improved portfolio. And what's really beautiful about this connection with iRebal is that it goes both ways, where we're actually now able to push this newly created portfolio here back into iRebal for further analysis and further kind of implementation of our new model. And we can do that two ways. We can click on the three dots right here, and here's this push to rebel option. You can rename it from here if you want, and then just click push, and that'll go straight to your iRebal account, which is pretty slick, and you'll be able to access it then.
Yeah, and Christian, to add to that, on the iRebal interface side, if you want to be able to both push and pull models into or out of iRebal and into or out of YCharts, there is a box on the iRebal interface that says vendor shared. You'll want to make sure that you have that box checked within iRebal, because that will enable you to both export and import models in and out of iRebal itself.
Yep, great reminder, Chris. Thanks for that. It's really exciting, this relationship on our end, because this is the first integration that we've had that can be pushed both ways. Traditionally speaking, we've been able to bring in information from our integration partners into YCharts, but what's so exciting about this iRebal integration is we can then send it right back once we've made our adjustments, similar to how I just did. Awesome. Well, I'm actually going to show one other potential way to use YCharts really as kind of the sandbox type of functionality that we like to use it as, which works really well with iRebal. Bringing in your model, using all of our different types of investment research and analysis to make changes, and then again, as we said, push it back. So one other way we can really kind of use our sandbox type of metaphor here is through our portfolio optimizer tool. If you're not familiar with our portfolio optimizer tool, the first thing that this tool is going to do is show where our model that we brought in via iRebal, where that model lies within the efficient frontier curve. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and bring in that ETF balanced model that I brought in from iRebal. Here it is. I'm going to circle back to this in a second, actually. I'm going to click on timeframes. My suggestion here is to really go back as far as we can. Once you click on this first white box, this is going to bring you as far back as we have data for all of the holdings. So, again, best practice to just use as much time as possible for the most calculations. And that's really going to be about it. So I'm going to go ahead and click calculate from here. And here we are. As you can see, we have our efficient frontier curve that's going to represent these blue circles here. Excuse me. And then this purple circle here is going to represent our portfolio and where that portfolio lies in terms of standard deviation and expected return. So that's really the first thing here. We're going to see where we lie. And then where the optimization comes in hand here is that each and every one of these blue circles represents an optimized portfolio of how you would achieve that level of expected return in standard deviation. My favorite way of explaining this is if you wanted to see how you would need to reallocate your portfolio with no new securities, just reallocating the current holdings, how you would need to reallocate that portfolio to achieve a higher expected return, but the same standard deviation, I'm just going to go straight up here and click on this blue circle that's straight above my original portfolio. You'll be able to see over here on the right how you would need to reallocate those holdings to achieve that level. And then also on the similar vein, if you wanted to see if you wanted to decrease standard deviation, but keep expected return the same, kind of on the opposite side of things, that's going to be straight left. And again, we will reallocate our holdings as sees fit. Anything in between there will, again, just be that relationship of expected return and standard deviation. One thing you might be thinking with our output is that this might not be realistic. You know, we don't want to allocate everything into one holding and reallocate out of everything else. That's really where our parameters set in. So it popped up, but you can access it now by clicking on this little pencil icon. This is where we can set minimum and maximum weights. So this, I'm able to tell the system here, hey, I don't want any of my holdings to be allocated below 5%. And I don't want any of my holdings to be allocated over 60%. So again, this is something you could spend a lot more time doing, setting in these parameters. I'm just throwing in these numbers here for example purposes. But once I click submit and click calculate, now we have a new efficient frontier curve. One little tip and trick is to scroll, drag and drop over it to kind of make this easier to look at. So now when I click into my portfolio that's higher expected return, but same standard deviation, as you can see here, it now takes into those parameters into account, something that may be a little bit more realistic for you and your business. Awesome. So let's say, you know, we really like this. Maybe we even have that replacement fund in here. So we've found some replacement funds. We've optimized our portfolio. We're really liking this. This is looking really good for us. You know, we're considering implementing this model to our business. Really good tip and trick here is this export as model portfolio feature. This is just going to create a portfolio out of my optimized now new model. So I'm going to click export as model portfolio. As you can see, this brings in the new target weights that we got based off of that optimizer. One thing it does is it names it the optimized version of the original portfolio we looked at, similar to how our first one said duplicate. So it's going to do a lot of the legwork for us there, which is really, really nice. So now I'm going to click save. And there it is there. It now lives as a portfolio. For one, on the YCharts side of things, we can now dive into this more. Again, do more research with all these tabs here and a lot of our other resources. And then also, we can now push this back to iRebal for further implementation. Again, you can do that on the outside screen, but once you're clicked in the portfolio, if you click actions up here in the top right, we do now have this option to push this back to iRebal. Awesome. Well, that was a few different things that we can do, you know, a few of many things that you can accomplish on YCharts once you do bring in the model from iRebal to use for YCharts for really kind of that sandbox type of capabilities. Again, we created some reports to create client deliverables, create, you know, proposal types of reports. We used attribution to find underperforming securities. We used our quick flows to find replacement securities. And we also used our portfolio optimizer. We used our portfolio optimizer to, of course, optimize our portfolio, find a new level of expected return and standard deviation, and then, of course, push that back to iRebal. So that's the majority of what we plan to have covered today. Happy to get into a Q&A session from here. Again, you should have access to that now there at the bottom of your Zoom screen, so feel free to ask away.
A question we get commonly about the integration is there any cost on the Schwab side for either the use of iRebal or the integration itself? And the answer to that is no. It's available to you as an advisor on the Schwab Advisor Services platform.
Awesome. Yep. Great reminder, Chris. Same really can be said on our end. Once you do have an active YChart subscription, the integrations do come to you at no cost as well. So those are associated with your YChart subscription. Again, please reach out to us. We would love to hear from all of those who are YCharts customers or are interested in at all. If you're having any issues with anything along those lines, please reach out to us. We will be able to assist with you further. For those of you who are interested in taking a look at YCharts, receiving some sort of a demonstration or trial period, please reach out to us as well. You can find that information on our website, YCharts.com. And you can also reach out to us for support, with the number there, as well as help@YCharts.com. So again, please don't hesitate to reach out. We would love to hear from you. And here we got one more question from Robert on how we push a portfolio back to iRebal again. Great question. Happy to recover that. So there's going to be two places, Robert. Really does not matter where. First is going to be over here on the three dots within the portfolios tool. Once you click on those three dots associated with the portfolio, you're going to have a push to iRebal option down there at the bottom. But once you do click into this and click actions, there's also that option to do there up in the top right as well. Awesome. Well, all right. If anybody else has any other questions, again, please reach out to us. But thank you all very much for your time today. Chris, thank you very much for your time today. Hope everybody learned something.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Christian. Bye, everyone.
All right. Take care.